Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode, this very episode, I'm going to be talking about the Fixx. Now, I'm surprised I haven't done a Fixx episode before. I've written about them many times. They are the band that I have seen the most live. I've probably seen them 7 times, maybe 8 times live. No other band have I ever seen that many times. They are fantastic live. And what I want you to know before we start this video is the core members of the band, the 4 guys, lead vocalist Cy Curnin, guitarist Jamie West Oram, keyboardist Rupert Greenall, and drummer Adam Woods. All 4 of those guys have been with the band since the beginning. Now, I believe that Rupert and Jamie and Adam were in a band called The Portraits before, but as the Fixx, those 4 core members are still there. Now, bass player Dan K. Brown has been there through most of that career, but I'll fill you in when we get to that point. But I always like to start these videos off by telling you how I got into the band, and that is all thanks to this album. Swingers, Counting the Beat. And you're probably wondering, Schnee, how does the Swingers get you into the Fixx? I'm going to tell you. Now, I was a big Split Enz fan, and Phil Judd was an early member of Split Enz. He was the guy that left the band, and Neil Finn replaced him. Now, he went off and he formed the Swingers and put out Counting the Beat, which is a great album. I loved it. You know, I bought it the day it came out because it was Phil Judd from Split Enz, and I loved the record. So I walked into Licorice Pizza one day, and there, up on the wall, was a poster advertising the Swingers, Counting the Beat, and this album by the Fixx called Shuttered Room. Now, this is 1982. And, of course, I thought, well, you know what? If they're both on the same poster, if they're both on the same label, then they've got to be good. So I used my money that day, and I bought myself the Fixx Shuttered Room. And I was absolutely blown away. This is the CD version of that MCA album. Now, this is actually right before KROQ in LA started playing it. MTV may have been playing the Fixx already by that time, but I didn't own MTV. But this album has Stand or Fall, Red Skies, those are 2 big songs. Lost Plains is a big song for them, especially down in Southern California on KROQ. There's a great song called The Strain, which ended up actually being a B-side to a UK single, but they put it on the album. They removed a couple songs, then they gave us this updated version of the album. Now, I also have on CD the original UK track listing, and there's a couple great songs there, including Sinking Island. This one also has some bonus tracks as well. So the Fixx Shuttered Room, no matter which version you find, you need to own it because it's just fantastic. It was a band that was finding its sound. About half the album, they sound like the Fixx, and the other half, they kind of sound like they're just sort of settling into that comfortable role. The bass player on this album was Charlie Barrett, but he ended up leaving after this. Now, 1983 comes around, and out comes the album Reach the Beach. Now, at this point, by the time the album came out, they did not have a bass player, but Alfie Agius, who was the bass player for Interview, was actually briefly a member of the Fixx. In fact, he co-wrote a lot of the songs of the album. But by the time the album came out, he was no longer a member of the band. Now, this was their big album. This is the one that has One Thing Leads to Another, Saved by Zero, Sign of Fire. This is the expanded edition there, if you want to take a look at those tracks. Other great songs are Opinions and Outside. Those are probably 2 of my favorite songs of the album. And you can see it has bonus tracks as well. Now, when they toured this album, they brought in a new bass player by the name of Dan K. Brown, and that's who played bass on the tour, and he just totally fit in with the sound of the Fixx. This is the first album that they really had that Fixx sound that they are so well known for. Now, these albums produced by Rupert Hine, the late great Rupert Hine, and he added some of his personality and his trickery in there as well. And just really fantastic stuff. 1984 comes around, and out comes the album Phantoms. And this album is the one with Less Cities, More Moving People, Sunshine in the Shade, Woman on a Train, Are We Ourselves. This is the period where MTV was getting really excited about premiering their new videos and everything. And this is the version with some bonus material, as you can see there. Was it Reach the Beach? No, it seemed a little rushed compared to Reach the Beach. It was still a fantastic album. But don't worry, they still had more great albums to come. Here's the US version, by the way. with the normal US track listing. This album had a lot more songs than their previous two albums. 1986 gave us the wonderful Walkabout. The interesting thing about the Fixx that I noticed with this album, and I experienced this before and after, is the albums, they hit you and you love them, but they seem to get better in time. So Walkabout, I loved it. You know, this is the album with Secret Separation and Built for the Future, and Treasure It, Camphor, Chase the Fire, a lot of great songs on it. But it's one of those things where I loved it and I listened to it a lot. But when I went back to listen to it 6 months, a year, 2 years later, it just got better and better. And that's the way that Fixx albums usually work, is they sound fantastic and they just continue to grow on you with each listen throughout the decades. Interesting thing is this version of the album has a hidden track at the end of Camphor. Not all pressings did. I've had pressings of this CD before that only had Camphor and it ended, but there's like a 10-minute space and then you get a bonus track. And this version has that bonus track. 1987, React. This is a live album for the most part. Not a fan of live albums by anybody. So I love seeing bands live. Like I said, I've seen the Fixx 7, maybe even 8, maybe even 10 times. But I just don't listen to live albums because the audience ruins it for me. The audience ruins it for me while I'm there. So... But actually, if you see here, this has Red Skies, Big Wall, Don't Be Scared, and Rules and Schemes, those first 4 songs. Those are all studio tracks. This is a re-recording of Red Skies. And then Don't Be Scared is one of their best tracks. It's absolutely fantastic. So this is worthwhile getting because it does have 4 studio tracks. That is React. That came out in 1987. That was the last album for MCA. They signed with BMG, and they put out Calm Animals in 1989. Some great songs on this album, like Driven Out and Precious Stone, The Flow. That is Calm Animals, came out in 1989. 1991 comes around, and they put out the album Ink. Another fine collection. While most of the songs are up there with the best of them, there are a couple things, like there was a cover version they did for a soundtrack or something called Falling in Love, which I don't think that they even care about. But this has How Much Is Enough, All Is Fair, No One Has to Cry, Crucified, Still Around. Fantastic album. It's still the same 5 guys. Cy, Jamie, Adam, Rupert, and Dan K. Brown. At that point, I believe the Fixx may have split up, or they just went on a long hiatus. But in the meantime, a British label put out Missing Links, which is essentially some B-sides and stuff from the first 2 albums, plus a couple rarities. Like there's a great song on here called I've Been Here Before, which is just absolutely amazing. And remember when I told you about Camphor having that hidden bonus track? Well, this is a different version of that song called Do What You Can. And then there's a remix of Red Skies. There's Sinking Island, which is on the UK version of the first album. This is the extended edition. And Missing Links came out in 1994. By 1998, Elemental was here, and Dan K. Brown was no longer in the band, at least at that time. He was replaced by a gentleman by the name of Chris Tate. But the legendary reggae bassist, Dennis Bovell, is somewhere on there. But Elemental is a fine album. Has some really great tracks on it, like 2 Different Views and Going Without and Is That It? Happy Landings, Fatal Shore, You Know Me. Really, really strong collection of songs, retaining that classic Fixx sound. 1999 comes the 2 CD set called 1011 Woodland, or 1011 Woodland, however you want to say it. And what this is them relaxed in an acoustic atmosphere in the studio, and they basically just doing hits and album tracks. There's, I think, maybe 3 or 4 live tracks that are at the very end of disc 2. I usually skip over those. Remember what I said about live recordings. It's unplugged, so to speak, and it's great because you can just hear how great the band sounds together. It doesn't matter who produces them or what instruments they use. If they turn everything up or turn everything down, they're still a great band. Cy Kernan, still a great vocalist, and just the band are all fantastic musicians. Now, in 2001, out comes this Happy Landings and Lost Tracks. Happy Landings was actually an EP that came out in 1997, and it was sort of the precursor to Elemental, the last album. But what they did is they reissued that mini album and they added some bonus tracks on it. So, you're going to get stuff on here that isn't anything else, like Free Man and Elected, and lots of great songs on that. Sweet Pandemonium, Modern World. Another great Fixx release. A little schizophrenic in some way because they were songs recorded from different eras, but still fantastic. 2003, out comes Want That Live. Another great Fixx album. This time, they have Gary Tibbs on bass. Now, Gary Tibbs played in Adam and the Ants and Roxy Music and Hazel O'Connor and the Vibrators. He played in so many different bands. Code Blue. He was actually an official member of the Fixx. And this is an album that is filled with some great songs, such as Are You Satisfied and Touch. Want That Live, the title track. No Hollywood Ending, Taking the Long Way Home. Just a great collection. Fantastic. These guys have been able to maintain quality ever since day one, and they still haven't let their fans down yet. Now, here's a rare one. This is the Fixx Stage 1, and what they did is they went with this lineup, including Gary Tibbs. They went in the studio and they sort of recorded their live set, so to speak, and got a lot of songs. They're all new versions and they're all actual re-recordings, and it sounds great. When I talk about live albums, I'm talking about the audience ruining live albums. And you also get these like various little pictures and all this kind of stuff. A really great set. Let's call it the Fixx Stage 1. I don't think that they're ever going to release that, so track it down. If you see it, grab it. I think they only sold it at shows, and that came out in 2004. Now, somewhere along the line, Gary Tibbs, out. Dan K. Brown, back in. And in 2012, they put out the album Beautiful Friction. Another great collection. This one's harder and edgier than anything they've done in the past, but it's classic Fixx, and it includes some absolutely fantastic songs like What God and Follow That Cab and Girl with No Ceiling. Just a great album. And then that's it. Ever since this album came out, they've been promising a new album. They tour every year. Of course, they can't tour this year because of that damn pandemic. The damn-demic. But we can always hope that as soon as this is gone, the Fixx will be back. What I want to show you, though, is a few things here. This is a standard greatest hits. This is probably the most common one you're going to see out there. It is a great collection, and it has a couple rarities on it. Everybody's going to need a CD with Deeper and Deeper on it, so you need to put that into your collection. So pick up any Fixx studio greatest hits that you can. They do have several live albums available, and I'm never going to discourage you from buying anything by the Fixx. I personally don't buy live albums unless there's 4 studio songs on it. But also I want to point out, now over the years, Jamie West Orm has played guitar on many albums, and Rupert Greenell, the keyboard player, has gone off and done projects with other musicians. But Cy Curnin has released 4 solo albums. Mayfly is the first one, and this came out 2005, and I Should Be So Lucky is fantastic. This one here is actually my favorite of his albums. A lot of these songs sound like they could have been Fixx songs, like We Might Find It and Remember Me When I'm Gone and Fork in the Road and Falling Apart Together. It's absolutely fantastic. It's called The Returning Sun. That came out in 2007. In 2009, he put out an album called Solar Minimum, and this album is kind of closer to a Peter Gabriel-esque album. It's more moody world music, and it's not like the Fixx at all, but that's the great thing about it, is because he's doing something different, and I'm always up for when musicians do different things. But that's Cy Curnin, Solar Minimum, came out in 2009. And finally, Cy Curnin from 2013, The Horse's Mouth, another great album. It's got Celebrating and The Good in You is great, and Bubble, and Before the Day is Out, and Been There, Done That. Great stuff. If you're not a fan of his on Facebook, definitely check it out, because he's got some songs available that you can download on Facebook that he's never released anywhere, so you definitely need to check those out. And then that is it. I mean, I've gone through what I own by the Fixx. Like I said, there are other collections, other live albums out there. I encourage you to follow this band. Interesting thing is, a lot of friends that I know who are Fixx fans, they aren't necessarily new wave fans. They're more fans of the music, and their other favorite band besides the Fixx is Rush. Now, I'm not saying that's the situation in all cases, but a lot of people who I know that follow the Fixx are really into what great musicians and songwriters they are, and that's why Rush is also one of their favorite bands. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for sitting there and allowing me to babble about the Fixx for a little while. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.